All
Hello.
right, guys. Oh, sorry. I was going to
Um,
say, hello, welcome to KHLC Internet Radio. At this time, I'm going to turn it on over. Go ahead.
hello. Welcome to the second episode of Pigskin Talk here on YouTube on Casey Cox KHLC Internet Radio, and what a eventful past week for college football. Some of you might think it was a glorious weekend because there's one powerhouse team that ended up falling for the second time this season. And for the NFL, I mean, we have the Eagles still undefeated. So let's get right into it. Talking about the NFL, first of all. Um, the playoff picture so far, there's only 7 teams that can go into the playoffs for each conference. And the number one seed right now in the AFC are the Bills with a 6-2 record. The Chiefs are have the 2 seed, the six also 6-2. The Ravens they beat the Saints this past Thursday night in New Orleans, the 6-3 record. The Titans 4th seed 5-3. The Jets, yes, I said the New York Jets. That's kind of surprising to see. They're the 5th seed at 6-3 record. They beat the Bills this past Sunday at MetLife Stadium. That's a bit of a shock considering how Josh Allen and the Bills are loaded. And the Chargers, the 7th seed at the 5-3. Now, I really did not expect the Dolphins. I mean, I did not expect the Jets to beat the Bills. I mean, the Bills, granted, they have a heck of a good quarterback and good wide receiving core. Not much of a running game, but the Bills are the top dog in the AFC. If the playoffs, if there's a home field advantage, it's going to go through Buffalo, I think. And I mean, the Chiefs are good, but they don't have Tyreek Hill. I mean, I think they'd be more intimidating if they had Hill. Don't know why he didn't want to stay in Kansas City, but it is what it is. The Ravens. Harbaugh has been coaching for the Ravens for 15 years now. That's what they said when they were playing the Saints, and they're not really as surprising now as when Harbaugh is their head coach. I mean, yes, they've been to the Super Bowl with Joe Flacco, but that was like what 5 or 6 years ago, and that was when they were playing against Colin Kaepernick, and that was when they had Joe Flacco, which Joe Flacco is now a third-string quarterback for the Jets, which is kind of surprising. I mean, if I were the Jets, I would have him at least my number 2 quarterback, considering he's a Super Bowl winning quarterback. The Titans, last season they had number 1 seed, and they got beat by the Bengals at home. And that was when the Bengals went on their Super Bowl run, ended up losing to the Rams. But the Titans are if the Titans are making the playoffs, it's because of their running game. They have Derrick Henry. I think he's going to carry them into the postseason.
At this point in
Um,
time, do you think the Titans are actually going to make the Super Bowl? Or are they one of those riding the fence?
they're one of those teams riding the fence. I'm not saying Super Bowl. I'm saying maybe at least a divisional round, because right now they're the 4th seed, and they would probably according to their NFL's playoff seeding, they would play the Jets, because the Chiefs are 2 seed, and they would play the Chargers. The Ravens would be against the Dolphins, and the Titans against the Jets. So the Titans
That would be a
could.
good game.
Oh yeah, it would be. But the Titans would just run all over the Jets defense because Derrick Henry is just too much to handle.
Oh, absolutely. He's a beast.
Yeah, yeah. Um, the Jets could I think the Jets, if they do make the playoffs, it's going to be close because yes, they're the fifth seed now, but I mean they're also the Jets. So I'm thinking maybe they'll get in there at least a seventh seed, and the Chargers would go up to one more spot to the sixth seed. But the Dolphins are
Right.
surprising. You were gonna say
And
something?
it would depend too on who the Jets have left on their schedule, on where they're really going to end up. Because is it a good possibility they win the games they have left because it's a weak schedule, or are they
Uh,
coming up against the toughest of the tough of their schedule and they're going to lose the next 5 games?
the next team they play, well, they're on a bye week this week, if I'm not mistaken, and the next game they play is against the Patriots, which
Oof.
that's a winnable game for New York for the Jets. But then
Depending
again,
on what team shows up.
yeah, one of those teams shows up. It's either going to be Mac Jones playing well, or Belichick takes him out and puts Zappy in, or Zach Wilson just keeps playing like he has been because he did not have a good couple seasons.
Yeah,
like
right.
yeah, and the Dolphins, if they keep Tua protected and well kept, then I don't see any reason why the Dolphins couldn't make the playoffs. But if Tua gets hit a couple more times in the backfield, then they might put him in the concussion protocol because that hit against the Bengals and the week before that, that previous game against the Bills was kind of concerning, and rightfully so because because he took a lot of beatings against
Yeah,
those teams.
I would say
Yeah.
those 2 games. I would say those 2 games alone probably shortened his career overall by 2 or 3 years.
Oh. Oh yeah. Yeah. It's kind of like
You take you take those head blows like that back to back, that shortens your career. There's no way around it. Mhm.
speaking of hits on the quarterback. This past week, Northwestern was playing their homecoming game, and we were down to our third string quarterback in this game because the other two quarterbacks were hurt, and it was in the third quarter. Our quarterback was running with the ball, and he gave himself up, so we slid down, and this Arkansas Tech player came and hit him in the head with his helmet, and he was on the quarterback was on the ground for a good while, and that defensive player ended up getting ejected for targeting. And
Good
so,
deal.
yeah, for the rest of the game, they ended up playing with their fourth guy at quarterback and ended up losing. But yeah, protecting the quarterback, sometimes it can go to an extreme. I mean, I'm not saying that
The
we can't.
NFL has taken it to an absolute extreme, at least with the way I've seen the officials this year calling roughing the passer. Like, my God, I could barely tap you in your forehead with a finger, and they're going to go, forcible contact to the head or neck area. And it's like,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
barely touched him with a finger on his helmet. You think that really did anything to him?
yeah.
Not everybody in this league is a Tom Brady and cries about a little itty bitty hit.
Yeah, now granted, in the past games, I have seen them lighten up on roughing the passer. I mean, I have seen the quarterback get hit like right after he threw the ball, and they didn't throw the flag. So there is some lightening up to it. But I mean, if you hit the quarterback like 5 seconds after he throws the ball, then yeah, they're gonna throw it. But like a half second after he throws, don't throw the flag.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I can't remember. I can't remember what game it was. Whether it was this past weekend, which I don't think it was. It was probably the weekend before that, or maybe even 3 weeks ago now. There was a game I was watching. I can't remember if it was college or NFL, but a defender got blocked into the quarterback after the quarterback threw, and they threw a roughing the passer on the defender that got blocked into the quarterback. They threw a roughing the passer against a defender who got blocked by an offensive lineman into their own quarterback. They called the
That's
roughing the passer on the defense.
so stupid. I mean,
It's like the defender wasn't even going after the quarterback at that time. He was tied up with the offensive lineman, and the lineman pushed him back into the quarterback after the quarterback releases the ball. And they literally threw the flag because of the way the quarterback went down. They threw the flag for roughing the passer
my gosh.
or unnecessary roughness on the quarterback or something, hit below the knees or something because he hit him like at his knees or at his ankles and rolled him down.
Or when
And
the
everybody was like, what the heck? He was blocked. Even the coaches were like, he was blocked into him. And the quarterback even jumped up and was like, he was blocked into him. Me, what? Okay, I guess.
even when the Buccaneers were playing against the Falcons a few weeks ago, Brady gets sacked. He's still holding the ball. He gets thrown on the. He gets tackled, sacked, obviously, and the defender gets flagged for roughing the passer. And Brady still has the ball in his hand. Like,
Yeah. It's those types of calls that I'm like, the game has gotten too protective.
yeah, yeah. Anyways, for the NFC, for the playoff seedings as of right now, the Eagles are the first seed. They've yet to be beaten. They're 8-0. They last game they played was against the Texans, I believe, and I mean that was just an easy win for the Eagles. I mean, it's the Texans. Who's not going to beat them? um, the second seed is the Vikings. They're at 7-1. They have yet to lose a game at home. Third seed are the Seahawks. They're 6-3. Geno Smith has been doing well for the Seahawks. I mean, he's been behind Russell Wilson for quite a while, so he's got some experience, learning experience. But at the beginning of the season, I thought the Seahawks would tank because they don't have Russell Wilson. But it's in fact the other way around. The Broncos are tanking still, and the Seahawks are rising up. So I don't know. What do
That's
you
funny
think?
you bring that up. It's funny you bring that up because I was just watching, like I normally do in the mornings. I try to watch a little bit of news and then I try to watch a little ESPN or ESPN2 and watch some of the sports talk shows. And they were just literally talking about who won that trade, the Denver Broncos or the Seattle Seahawks. Because the Seattle Seahawks are running away with Geno Smith, fucking dominating. And Denver's kind of sitting here in the middle of the pile, looking to be kind of a bottom barrel team with a very high end first round pick. They
Yeah,
traded away everything they had, and then the extra life they were given to get Russell Wilson and build a team around him. They gave up 2 first round and 2 second round draft picks, along with 4 players.
yeah,
And what has Russell Wilson really done for the Broncos? In
not
that kind
much.
of trade, the Broncos should be going to the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
If they're going to win that trade, they need to be going to the Super Bowl and winning it. And they're not even
it's,
close.
it's like last week I said I heard like some people said that they just needed a quarterback. They were one quarterback away, and
No, they weren't. And
no,
if they
they're
were
not.
one, if they were one quarterback away, why did you throw all your eggs into such a big basket that you're willing to pay this quarterback who has been falling off the peak and falling off the ledge for the past 2 to 3 years at least, declining every year in athleticism, it seems. And you
Yeah,
went out, not only did you trade your life away, plus your best friend's life, plus your mom's life, plus your dad's life away to get Russell Wilson, you also paid the man a guaranteed $250 million contract.
yeah.
Do you know? They just said it this morning, and I knew it was probably something around that area, but I wasn't as accurate on my number. I actually went a little higher. But do you know what that does to their cap hit? If they were to decide to go, okay, Russell Wilson was a bad move, we are going to move away from Russell Wilson next year. Do you know what that cost the Broncos in cap?
How much?
$98 million in cap
Wow.
hit. Yeah. So they can't move away from him anytime soon. Now they're stuck.
Yeah, they're
You
stuck
can't
with
move.
the
You can't
with
take
the
a $98 million cap hit, even if you're the Dallas Cowboys.
no.
That leaves you no room to do anything with. You have to have a dead season where you do no trading, no signing new players to new contracts, no nothing, and have at least 1 or 2 years where you do that, where you only take what you draft and nothing more in order to be able to take that hit. And you can't take that hit and go get somebody else in the league because Carson Wentz damn sure ain't the rookie quarterback that he was.
No. Carson Wentz is even the backup for the uh, Commanders now. It's Taylor Heineke
Right,
playing. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like you would be looking for like a Carson Wentz rookie level talent. There is not that in the NFL right now. Not on a
No.
rookie contract. Only one is on a rookie contract that's a damn good quarterback right now in the league. That's Justin Herbert over in San Diego. They still have him on his rookie contract. They are
You mean
barely paying that guy any money.
the Los Angeles Chargers?
Or the Los Angeles Chargers. Used to be San Diego.
Yeah.
But the Los Angeles Chargers. They've got that man on a rookie contract and he's fucking killing it at quarterback for them.
Yeah. Do you know why they have?
Don't?
Do you know why they still have him at their rookie quarterback contract? He's like in his second year.
Because the rookie contract they signed with him, I think, was a 3-year deal.
Oh.
So,
Okay. So when it expires, they renegotiate.
So next year they'll be renegotiating that contract. But yeah, they have him on like a 3 or 4 year rookie contract. I didn't
Wow.
realize that. I was working the NASCAR championship weekend this past weekend. And one of the vendors and I were talking because he's a football fan too. And we were talking about the Chargers and all the quarterbacks in the league. And he goes, "You realize they still have Justin on a rookie contract?" And I went, "Huh? What?" And he went, "Yeah, dude, they have him on like a 4-year rookie contract." Huh? Say what? So they were smart with, and he's like, yeah, that's why they're keeping him, and that's why they don't want to trade him away because one, he's a good quarterback. Two, they're not spending any money on him. They're spending like $2 million a year on this guy, and this guy is leading them farther than most quarterbacks have led them.
And the Chargers are stacked anyway. They got a stacked defense, and yet they're showing
So
that they're at the 7th seed right now. So something's going on with them. But
and just to clarify, no, that's not the only guy on a rookie contract in the NFL that's at the quarterback position. He's just the only quarterback still on a rookie contract performing better than his contract.
yeah, and the 4th seed in the NFC are the Buccaneers at 4-5, and they beat the Rams this past week by I think it was 3 points on the final drive of the game for the Bucks because they had the ball at their own, I think, 35 or 40-yard line with 45 seconds left and no timeouts. And Brady being Brady, he just starts throwing dimes and getting him into scoring distance and gets it to the 1-yard line with 9 seconds left and throws a short pass to his tight end to win the game. And so as of now, the Buccaneers are still alive. I'm not saying that they're going to win the Super Bowl, but I mean, they have a chance because it's Brady. Brady's been there. He's been in that kind of situation. But I mean, at the same time, they got to play as a team and try to went out, because right now they're at a losing record, and with the playoff seeding at 4-5. And if they do get into the playoffs, then they would have to get past the Vikings and the Eagles, which the way the Eagles are playing now, what?
It- the way the Buccaneers are playing right now, they're unlikely to get past the freaking Vikings, let alone the somehow on fire fucking Feagles.
Beagles. Well, yeah, you're right. You're right. I mean, um,
Unless Brady goes on fire and becomes Miracle Man, they're not
I mean,
getting past the Vikings or the Eagles.
he's been Miracle Man before. Just look at Super Bowl 51, for crying out loud.
Yeah, but most of them times he's had Gronk beside him. This time he doesn't. So
Yeah, true. But I mean, if there's a bright side to the Buccaneers season besides the playoffs, is that they've beaten the Saints in the regular season. Finally, because Brady,
finally,
yeah, because since has played for the Bucks before they played the Saints, he was winless against the Saints in the regular season, and when they were playing against them for the first time in New Orleans, there was a big brawl. I didn't know if you saw that or not, but at one point, Mike Evans comes in and starts throwing hands with Marshawn Lattimore, and Evans gets
oh
tossed.
Lord,
Yeah, yeah. There was a little bit of a scrum in that game. It was fun to watch. And the fifth seed, as of now, are the Dallas Cowboys at 6-2. Uh, the only two losses the Cowboys have are against Brady and the Bucks and the Rams. And that loss against the Rams was when Cooper Cup was no, not Cooper Cup. Cooper Rush.
Cooper Rush.
Rush. Yeah, it was when Cooper Rush was at the helm. Uh, if Dallas is gonna succeed with all the money and players that they have, it's gonna be for uh, uh, Prescott to keep his thumb and arm healthy, and get the ball, give the ball to CeeDee Lamb, because that, in my opinion, that's one of his hottest targets is Lamb, and
Oh,
obviously hand the
absolutely.
ball.
That's his favorite target, not just his hottest target. That's his favorite target. Let's not get it twisted. He loves that number 88 and that CeeDee Lamb. That's his. He knows he can throw a ball, and CeeDee Lamb's going to go high point it and get it over anybody. I mean,
Yeah,
and
and
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it's this week or next week. I believe, but they're supposed to be. I thought anyway. I'd heard that they were possibly getting James Washington back that they picked up from the Philadelphia Steelers, that he might be potentially coming back from injury, and that would be a second target for Dak Prescott.
you mean the Pittsburgh Steelers? You said the Philadelphia
Yeah, the
Steelers.
Steelers. See, I'm all fucked up today.
And last season, the Cowboys got into the wild card round and got beat by the 49ers. So we'll see how healthy Dallas is going to be in the upcoming weeks here in the NFL season. Maybe they'll get into the I'm going to say at least divisional round, because I mean right now they're the fifth seed. So if they ended up winning and they're the lowest seed left remaining, they're going to play the Eagles. But I'm thinking they're either going to end
That
up
is
playing.
crazy. I think that's crazy when you think about it. You just went through the AFC playoffs, and once you got down to a 5 seed, you basically had a losing record team sitting 5, 6, 7, 8.
Yeah,
You go to the NFC, you have a freaking 6-2 team sitting at number 5 in the playoffs. If you're looking at that and predicting the Super Bowl, your money should be on an NFC team winning the Super Bowl at this point.
Right? Because like I said, the Eagles have yet to lose, and they play the Washington Commanders this week. So, I mean that's going to be an easy
There's
game.
another walkover.
Yeah,
Might as well be
right.
playing the Washington cheerleaders.
The Washington cheerleaders. I mean, we can go all day making fun of their name. I mean, people nicknamed them the commies for crying out loud.
Can we put Dan Snyder on the field and watch him get tackled a few times?
Well, he is the owner right now, as of now. So, but yeah, the sixth seed as of now are the New York Giants, sitting at 6-2. And the Giants are on a hot streak. I mean, on a hot season right now. They have a better they're having a better season this year than last season, because Brian DeBall is their head coach, and it's a different atmosphere for the Giants. Daniel Jones is playing well. Saquon Barkley doing well. I mean,
I think that the New York Giants have finally found the coach with the philosophy that works for this team.
Yeah.
I mean, Daniel Jones, honestly, I didn't think that there was a coach in this league that could coach that man to be as good as everybody thought he was going to be. And the first season and a half or two there in New York, he showed that he wasn't what everybody thought he was going to be. And now this new coach, Brian DeBall, has come in and changed this man 100% turnaround. And now he's playing like everybody expected him to play his first 2 seasons. So I think the New York Giants definitely have the right quarterback. I think they have the right quarterback coaching combo. If something happens and the coach goes away, I think you'll see Daniel Jones go back to the Daniel Jones of old, where he wasn't very good. He was very inaccurate. I think he's got the right coach, and I think that's where the Giants need to focus is, okay, maybe we're not winning, and I mean, this year they are, but if something happens and they're not winning the games, they don't need to go, oh, we're not winning the games, we need to get rid of our coach. They need to go, no, we need to trust the process. This coach has shown he can get this quarterback on track. Let's let him do it.
Yeah. Like you said, they found their coach. It might take them a few years, but the Giants could very well be a very successful team, not only in the regular season, but in the postseason as well. And Jones could end up winning a Super Bowl for the Giants in the next 7 years, maybe. Just depends on how well they're doing. And for the
I could see that.
Yeah. And for the 7th seed, surprisingly, the 49ers with a 4-4 record. I mean, I don't understand how you get into a
look
playoff.
At that jump, 6-2 to 4-4 from 6 to 7.
I mean, this is on the NFL website. This is not me. This is the NFL.
I know, but that's what I'm saying though. That's you go 6-2 to 4-4. Like, wait a minute, that's crazy. I mean, this is, I think, the first year in 10 years we've seen a non-winning record or a 500 record be talked about as being a playoff seed 8 weeks into the season.
Yeah. And granted, the 49ers have Christian McCaffrey. I mean, he's a good running back. And Jimmy Garoppolo, I mean, he has
the Panthers really fucked that one up.
I mean, the 49ers have, like I said, Jimmy Garoppolo. He has some playoff experience. He's started in a Super Bowl against the Chiefs a few years ago, and they've blown a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter. But
Jimmy Garoppolo showing the typical Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah, I mean, if there's any team that the 49ers could beat in the playoffs, it could be the Cowboys because last season they pulled that off at AT&T Stadium.
Hey, now screw you. They're not beating the Cowboys this year. You had to go to that road? Come on now. I thought we were better friends than that, Colin.
Yeah, I
You're
mean,
gonna say
as
the
of now,
49ers at 4-4 are gonna beat the Cowboys at 6-2?
I mean, on the bright side for you, it doesn't look like they'll be playing the Cowboys because they're the seventh seed. So at best, they would be playing the Vikings, the number two seed. So they could very well be already be eliminated if it stays that way, because
Right.
the Vikings are.
Now dark horse scenario that I wouldn't mind seeing is Philadelphia losing out, the Vikings losing out, and it coming down to a number like 4 Cowboys, which I think they're going to be 2, 3, or 4 by the end of the season in the playoffs. I don't think they're going to finish out at where they're at now. I don't think they're going to be a 6-2, 4 seed. They might be, a 2-loss, 4 seed team, maybe, depending on how the rest of the NFC finishes out. But as far as them being, I say the lowest would be a 4 seed when the playoffs start, and seeing something like that and a 7 or an 8 seed, even, or I guess it is 7 seeds now, a 7 seed like 49ers and Cowboys in an NFC championship. Because then, honestly, I feel better that the Cowboys are winning the NFC championship and going to the damn Super Bowl. That's just because I don't think Garoppolo has it in him to win a big game. He's shown he can't win the big ones.
Yeah, I yeah, he still has some work to do. I mean, like I mentioned, they've blown a 10-point lead in the Super Bowl to the Chiefs. But I mean,
Good
granted,
grief.
he was behind one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, so he still has some of that level of expertise. But uh, with the Eagles and Vikings at the 1 and 2 seeds, I remember a couple of years ago, the Vikings were very close to becoming the first team ever to host their own Super Bowl. And then they go to Philadelphia and just get torched by the Eagles.
Obliterated? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, they got
obliterated.
obliterated. Yeah.
With Nick Foles at the helm for
Yeah,
Philadelphia.
that was a collapse.
Yeah. So it might be different this year because Kirk Cousins. I mean, he's. I mean, I did not think he would be the Vikings franchise QB.
I don't think
Back
anybody did.
no, back when they beat the Saints in the playoffs a few years ago with that Minneapolis Miracle, I thought, okay, Case Keenum's the guy for Minnesota, and then they let him go and bring in Kirk Cousins, and I'm like, well, there you go, Minnesota, you just done screwed up on this one.
Right.
But no,
And am I wrong, or is this Kirk Cousins' second stint with the Vikings?
I'm not entirely sure, to be honest. But he was
I
with
believe it
the
is.
before he was with the Vikings. Now he was with the Redskins, and
Yeah, he was.
yeah,
I want to
and
say the Redskins picked his ass up from the Vikings.
yeah, and then they let him go. Now he's with the Vikings again, and he's doing very well with Kevin O'Connell. There's this meme going around with Kirk Cousins wearing chains because after the Vikings won one of their games and they were flying back home, Kirk Cousins was wearing some gold chains around his neck, and they were celebrating on the plane. And so all the players were all trying to were all making that tradition to where every time the Vikings win a game, Kirk Cousins puts like gold chains on and they just start partying. So yeah, and And one of the other memes says has Kirk Cousins in a buttoned up plaid shirt, and it says Cousins went from "I'll have her back at 9, sir" to "She calls me daddy now," and he's shirtless wearing chains.
Oh Lord, Lord.
Yeah, so the Vikings are kind of on cloud 9 right now.
It seems like it.
Yeah,
Which they're having the best season again. They're having the best season they've had in probably the last 5 years at least by my memory, if it serves me correct.
yeah, no doubt the Vikings are um, getting up there to potential um, success in the playoffs. I mean, a couple years ago, the playoffs had the 1 and 2 seeds on a bye, and now it's just a 1 seed on a bye with 3 wild card games. And so the another dark horse scenario is where the 49ers go to Minnesota and beat and upset the Vikings. But I don't see that happening. I mean, Garoppolo and the Niners are just too. Yes, they have Christian McCaffrey, but they're just not in that level right now. Now
Right.
let's get,
Yeah.
yeah, let's get to everyone's probably mostly everyone's favorite college football topic. It's college football because it's the talk of the week right now. I think with especially Alabama going that losing their second game this season, and the college football playoff came out with their playoff rankings a few days ago, and their rankings are they have Georgia at number 1, Ohio State at number 2, Michigan at number 3, TCU at number 4, which TCU is the only undefeated team remaining in the Big 12. And the first 2 teams out are Tennessee and Oregon.
Eh,
And
I don't like that. I don't like that, and I don't agree with it. And here is why. Even though the Tennessee Georgia game, and we'll get into that I know later, so I'm not going to dig too much into it now. But even though the Tennessee Georgia game wasn't what everybody expected, we
yeah,
all knew that Tennessee was very unlikely going to finish the season undefeated. We knew they were going to lose to a Georgia, an Alabama, a Clemson, somebody of that stature. We knew that's who they were going to lose to coming into the season because we knew they had a good team. They've been building a good team for the last 2 or 3 years under Josh Heupel.
mm-hmm.
They didn't now I didn't get to watch the games because I was working the NASCAR championship weekend in Phoenix, so I didn't get to watch hardly any college football. But from what I heard analysts talking about, it wasn't like Tennessee played an absolutely horrible game. It was just that they showed up at a place that's very tough to play in
Yeah.
Georgia, played Georgia in the Georgia Dome, and
No,
lost
they played in Sanford Stadium.
24.
They
Oh,
played
did
at
they
Georgia.
play? Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, they played at Georgia, right?
yeah,
Yeah. They didn't
and
play it at the Georgia Dome, though?
no,
Oh,
they played at Sanford
I thought they
Stadium.
were. Hmm. I thought they were going to play it at the Georgia Dome.
No,
But still, you go into a hard place to play the Bulldogs at Bulldogs. That's just such a big game. I would have figured they would have moved that one over to the Georgia Dome to house everybody that would have been there, or that potentially would have been there. With that being a number 1 versus a number 3 or a number 1, number 2 matchup. Um, but I mean, either way, Georgia or the Georgia Dome doesn't matter. Both places are hard to play. You showed up to play at a place where it's hard to play, and by my understanding, they only lost by 14. And it
it
wasn't
was.
like it was a high scoring.
Yeah,
Wasn't
you're
like it was
right.
a high scoring affair either. It was like 24-10 or some shit like that. I think. I
It
mean,
was
I don't think it was like
27-6 at one point.
42. It was 27-6 at one point.
Yeah,
Yeah. So But I mean, I think they lost by, like I said, I didn't get to watch it. Can't remember exactly what the score was of it, but I think it was only like a 14-point deficit, if I remember right. It wasn't like it was a 42-20 blowout or a 42-7 blowout or some shit like that. They didn't lose by 3 touchdowns. They still came in. They played a good ball game. They just got beat.
Yeah.
I would have dropped. Honestly, I would have dropped Georgia. I would have moved Georgia to number 1. I would have dropped Tennessee to 3, maybe 4. And if I dropped Tennessee to 3, I might put TCU at 4. But if I put Tennessee at 4, I'm putting TCU as the first team out, just because their resume is not as strong.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
TCU's in the Big 12. That's not a strong conference like the SEC.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. We're talking this season. We're talking this year. The way everything is set this year, absolutely fucking not. The Big 12 is a weak conference. OU is 3 wins or 4 wins into the season. West Virginia is 4 wins in on the season. Baylor, 3 or 4 wins, 5 wins in on the season. These teams that were expected to be top-notch contenders in the Big 12 are at the bottom of the barrel. The only one that stayed up top that was supposed to be up there was Oklahoma State. And that was before they lost to TCU and then turned around and lost to Kansas State.
And then they
turned around and lost to Kansas. Yeah, then turned around and lose to Kansas. So, I mean, but they were up there at the top, and that's where they were supposed to be, and they were the only team that was supposed to. TCU was supposed to be a 3 or a 4. You're supposed to be like Oklahoma. You're supposed to be Oklahoma, Texas, Oklahoma State, TCU.
And now it's all like flipped.
Yeah, it's all totally flipped.
Yeah, where it's going to be TCU in the Big 12 championship game, and maybe Oklahoma State against TCU, but
maybe but that means Texas and Kansas State each have to lose at least one of their upcoming games, one of their remaining like 3 or 4 games on the season. While they could do that, I don't see it happening. Honestly, at this point, I would say it's probably going to be TCU, Kansas State, just because I would hate to see a TCU Texas matchup. Texas versus Texas Big 12 is screwy for the Big 12 title. But now if we were looking at next season, I don't know if you know it or not, or have kept up with who all's coming in to the Big 12. But if you look at the teams getting ready to come into the Big 12 starting next season, as OU gets ready to make its exit and Texas gets ready to make its exit, the Big 12 is bringing in 4 new schools next season.
Yeah.
They are bringing in the University of Central Florida, the University of Cincinnati, the University of Houston, and BYU.
Yeah.
Okay. Tell me which of those 4 teams right now is weak? None. They're all doing fairly well this season.
Yeah.
You had those 4 teams. And honestly, at this point, you get rid of an inconsistent, dying Oklahoma team that looks like it's ready to go and die in the SEC. And you get rid of a Texas. Who looks like it was dying in the Big 12 and has now revamped itself because it's going to the SEC. You got one team leaving that looks like they're ready to go off and die under a rock in a league they know they're going to get destroyed in. And you got another one that looks like they were the ones that made the call first, Texas, going, we're going to go to the SEC because we know we can dominate. And OU went, well, we want to follow you, so we're going to go do this shit too, even if it kills us. And Lincoln Riley knew this. That's why he tucked tail and ran in the middle of the night to USC. Because the USC's getting ready to leave the Pac-12 and join the Big freaking 10. What the fuck?
And not only did Lincoln Riley leave, but he took Caleb Williams with him.
Oh, yeah. Caleb Williams tucked tail and ran too. Said, fuck that. We don't want none of Alabama. We don't want none of LSU. We don't F that. No, we don't want it. We're not
Yeah,
with it. And now OU's going, we got Brett Venables as a coach. We got this Gabriel, whatever the hell his name is, at quarterback. Our team is falling apart. And it's probably got a lot to do with the fact that we're getting ready to go get romped on like the redheaded stepchild. They're getting ready to be the OSU of the SEC.
or the new Vanderbilt
Or
because
exactly. They're going to be the
yeah,
new Vanderbilt. They're going to be a middle of the barrel, never make the playoffs, even in a 12-man playoff system team.
yeah,
While the Big 12 is sitting here going, UCF, University of Cincinnati, University of Houston, BYU, bring it. We got 4 teams that 3 of the 4, at least last I checked, were ranked or close to being ranked and having winning seasons. Like, at least those are 4 winning schools that are coming in,
yeah.
and they're only going to make the Big 12 better. Now the football playoff committee is going to have to go, is the SEC the strongest conference? Because they did just add Oklahoma and Texas. Or is it now the Big 12 who added 4 big powerhouse schools that have become, or at least that have become powerhouses in the last 4 or 5 years?
Now, granted,
and the Big 12 just signed the biggest TV deal that any conference has signed too. So,
yeah. I mean, now granted, OU in Texas when they get into the SEC, OU is not going to have to play Bama or LSU in their division, because OU's not obviously not near Alabama or Baton Rouge, but they'll probably play teams like Missouri, Arkansas, and maybe
actually,
Van.
actually, actually, they would probably, they may end up getting grouped in with LSU. They may have to totally redo things when they add Oklahoma in if they're trying to keep it somewhat geographical, because Baton Rouge from OU is only like 12 hours. 12 or 14. It's not that, it's really not that big of a trek, not when you're looking at Oklahoma State, who's been traveling to West Virginia, or Oklahoma that's been traveling to West Virginia. I mean, West Virginia's in the Big 12. Everybody has to travel way out east and take a 13, 14 hour, 16 hour, 18-hour bus trip to go play West Virginia when they go play in the mountains. So it wouldn't be too far-fetched. I mean, if the SEC wants to keep it competitive, it wouldn't be far-fetched to see an OU-LSU matchup.
Yeah, then we could watch OU get stomped on because
Exactly.
yeah, OU is in a rebuilding stage. I mean, because
They are. They very much are.
because like you said, our previous coach took our heart and soul with him, and now we're just left with a limb and a couple of branches, and we're
Right.
trying.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And
And I mean, for Brett Venables' sake, I always liked Brett Venables. I liked him before he went to Clemson. I loved him after he went to Clemson because he did amazing things in Clemson. And I don't like OU, but when I saw Brett Venables was their coach, I went, damn, they're looking to compete. And then
yeah,
this season happened, and I went, damn, maybe Brett Venables isn't their coach. But then I had to look at their roster, and I mean, yeah, they've got 20-some young guys on their roster, and that's more than they've had in the past 5 or 6 years. So that inexperience, maybe that helps them going into the SEC because they will get experienced. So they will be, I can't say they will be a dying team. That's just me loving to talk shit on OU. But I would love to think OU is going to go to the SEC and die and be a 2-10, 2-8, 3-6, 4-5 type team every year, just so that I can laugh at them for a little bit. But I know that's not going to happen.
now, as an OU fan, I have concerns about OU going into the SEC. I mean, when we had Lincoln Riley and Caleb Williams, I'm thinking, yeah, we could compete. We got a top offense in the NCAA. We got a good quarterback. Our defense is somewhat well, so I mean we could do this. And then I see them. I see Lincoln Riley leave for USC, and I'm like, well, we're screwed. So, and granted, Brent Venables did used to coach for OU before he went to Clemson. He was, I think, the defensive coordinator when Bob
Yes, he
Stoops.
was.
Yeah, and so it's not like we have a completely new guy, but you know, maybe OU will get a somewhat decent bowl game. But even if OU does get a bowl game, some of those guys might drop out because want to get ready for the draft or whatever.
I just want to say live real quick that I want to thank Oklahoma State so much for losing 3 games in a row, because I was this OSU fan sitting here talking hella shit, going, ha ha, OU's going to the fucking toilet bowl, ha ha. If you get a bowl game, you're literally gonna be in the toilet bowl, playing on like some network that nobody watches, playing a game that nobody watches, playing a team you're probably going to dominate because it's a nobody team. And Oklahoma State was on their way to like the freaking Fiesta Bowl or the Alamo Bowl or the freaking playoffs for that matter. And or an outside looking in 5 or 6 ranked, almost into the playoffs type team. And now they're looking at the toilet bowl.
Yeah.
So thank you for shitting on the on all the Oklahoma State fans that were taking glory in being able to talk a little crap, because now we're kind of sitting here going, we got to keep our mouth shut.
Yeah.
Now
I've
Bedlam
always
is scary all of a sudden.
Yeah. I've always thought Oklahoma State's one of those teams that anytime they get ranked, they're going to fall off. And this time they fell off hard because they were number 9. And they end up getting shut out by Kansas State. So, okay, they dropped to number 18. And then they lose to Kansas. And then they just drop out of the
by
top
14.
25.
Yeah, they lose to Kansas by 14. And, I mean, Oklahoma State they've fallen off. But they also got hit with injuries at a very, very critical point in their season.
Oh yeah.
Sanders' bum shoulder has been bothering him for 4 weeks now. Our key running back missed 2 games because things are going wrong with him. We've missed 5 or 6 on the offense on the line, another 5 or 6 on the defense on the line, and in the backfield. Our 2 main safeties were out the last game or the last 2 games, so we were playing true freshman safeties. Like, you don't come into the Big 12 and play true freshman safeties and think you're going to shut down a Big 12 team, even if it's Kansas.
No.
And Kansas has got a damn good coach this year. The coach that they have, I think Kansas has found something in them. Kansas is no longer going to be this laughing stock of the Big 12. The Big 12 is going to have to find a new laughing stock of the Big 12. And they're going to have to hope it's going to be a BYU or a UCF or a University of Houston or a University of Cincinnati, because I don't think it's going to be Kansas anymore. I really don't, because they have totally turned their program around. They're starting to recruit right. Their coach has got a good head on his shoulders. He's coming in. He's doing something right with the kids. So they're no longer going to be we don't even need to really worry about them. We're going to beat them this week. Now teams are going to actually have to start preparing for Kansas. And that helps the Big 12, I think. I think if nothing else, that helps the Big 12 in strength of conference, because they've always been looked at a weak conference because they've had Kansas, they've had Baylor, they've had Texas Tech, who just never been real consistent.
Something else that might help Kansas become stronger is I saw on Facebook a couple days ago. I think it was College Football on Fox, so some page like that says that their bowl projections for Kansas will be the Liberty Bowl against Missouri, an SEC team. And I saw that and I think, wow. I mean, Kansas is looking to go up against an SEC team and possibly do something because I mean Kansas has been surprising this season. Nonetheless, I mean they become bowl eligible for the first time for a long time since they beat Oklahoma State, and that's one of the reasons why I think they tore down their goalposts after they beat the
Right,
Cowboys.
yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's not even, I mean, it's they're competitive again. They're winning games again. Just everything seems to be going right for Kansas again.
Mm-hmm.
Finally. Um if they're smart as a recruiting tool, they've known they were going to be good. They've known they were possibly going to make the bowl games. So if they were smart, they held on to some of their recruiting visits to invite them in for that bowl game against Missouri, if that's what they get, or whatever bowl game they do get. Because
Yeah.
if they invite all them recruits out to watch that bowl game, I can guarantee you, win, lose, doesn't matter. Those recruits show up to a KU bowl game and KU is competitive. Those recruits are now going to have to go home and really give thought of, I was kind of joking when I thought about going to KU because they've been a nobody. I just want to entertain a weak team, just to, kind of as a laugh, as a joke.
Mm-hmm.
They see them play and compete in a bowl game. They're going to go home and go, this isn't a laugh. This isn't a joke. This is wow, I really need to think about going here because they may actually up my potential to go to the NFL. When's the last time you thought KU would up anybody's potential to go to the NFL?
Yeah. I mean, if when Kansas goes to that bowl game, you can expect a lot of blue in there because that's going to be like their national championship game right there. Because I mean,
Oh, yeah.
when was the last time you seen Kansas in a bowl game? I can't even think.
19 nothing.
Yeah, exactly. I can't even think of the last time when Kansas was in a bowl game.
This may be their
So
first in history, I think.
maybe probably, but back to the college football playoff rankings. Tennessee has a good chance of possibly getting in there because Ohio State's number 2 and Michigan's number 3, and those two play each other this season, the last game of the regular season. So if one of those teams loses, Tennessee has a good chance of getting back in there. Um, so hypothetically speaking, if Ohio State loses to Michigan, Ohio State could drop down to number 3, and um, Michigan up to number 2, and then TCU could drop out. And Tennessee could come in if TCU ends up losing. But I mean, just imagine that Ohio State versus Michigan in a playoff game.
Oh, Lord.
That's gonna be.
That would be crazy, for one.
And this is gonna have to be a
Those
lot
two
of
teams
security.
hate each other about as bad as Michigan State.
Yeah, and even in the regular season, if one of those teams wins, one of them's gonna have to drop. And so if like Michigan ends up losing to Ohio State, Michigan could drop to number 4 or a couple of spots, and that could bring Tennessee up. But yeah, it would be a madhouse for that playoff game with the Buckeyes against the Wolverines. And I remember a couple of weeks ago, I said, imagine seeing a Ohio State versus Michigan national championship game. I made a comment on one of those playoff predictions on Facebook, and sure enough, I mean, they're not quite at the right rankings to face each other in the national championship game, but nonetheless, a playoff game. I mean, that's one that would be fun to watch. I mean, there's most likely going to be a lot of security, a lot of fans going at each other. I mean, that's a college football dream right there. That's a game dream in and itself. But for the past
Right.
yeah, but for the past couple of years, Ohio State's had has had the best of Michigan, and Harbaugh, the coach for Michigan, hasn't even beaten Ohio State yet. I don't believe. So right now, Ohio State has the upper hand. In Oregon at number six, I don't see them getting in. Even if they do get in, they're going to get their face kicked in.
I agree with
But
that.
yeah, but so let's go back to the Tennessee and Georgia game. Georgia beat Tennessee 27-13. Hooker, the quarterback for Tennessee, went 23 for 33 for 195 yards, 0 touchdowns, and 1 interception, compared to Stetson Bennett, 17 for 25, 257 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no interceptions. Uh, Tennessee had 94 yards rushing, with Wright leading the way with 21 carries for 69 yards and 1 touchdown, compared to Georgia's 132 yards rushing. I mean, Georgia obviously had a better day running the ball than Tennessee, with McIntosh leading the way with 10 carries, 52 yards, and no touchdowns. Um, Now, listen to this, Casey. Total yards of offense. Georgia had 387 compared to Tennessee's 289. Um, and yards per play, six yards for Georgia, about 4 yards for Tennessee. So Georgia's defense really stepped it up against Tennessee. I mean, compared to when Tennessee was down 27 to 6. Uh, I said this last week. If Georgia was going to win that game, it was going to be because they're at home and their crowd gets loud. And they were at home, their crowd gets loud, and they took care of business. Now, I said Georgia would win by 7. Well, I was 7 off, so I would have lost. Me and you would have lost money there. But
Oh yeah, I would have definitely lost money because I only had them maybe by 3, but
yeah, I mean, you said by 3, and then I was all like, yeah, no, Georgia's not going to let that happen. And ESPN had a 8-point spread, so ESPN had a good um, prediction
had a
right there. And Tennessee went 2 for 14 on third downs compared to Georgia's 7 for 12. Tennessee 3 for 5 on fourth down. Georgia didn't go for it on fourth down. Um, Tennessee 75 plays on offense. Georgia 62. Each team had 4 punts, and the penalties are um, were the factors of that game, because Tennessee had 9 penalties for 55 yards, and Georgia had 6 penalties for 60 yards. So, I mean, you take away those penalties for Tennessee, they could have came out of Athens with an upset. But um, like I said, I mean, Georgia playing at Georgia. Um, Even last season when they played Kentucky, when Georgia played Kentucky, Georgia just stomped on them. So the powerhouse team in the SEC, I think, is Georgia. Because as of now, I don't think Alabama could compete with Georgia. By the way, the Bulldogs are playing. Um, but
I don't think Alabama has to worry about, or Georgia has to worry about Alabama until next season. The way
no,
Alabama's been playing.
no, Alabama's not going to the. I mean, Alabama's not going to the playoffs because they have a 2-loss record. But I mean, even if Alabama does get into the SEC championship game, Georgia's gonna, stomp on them. It's gonna be a
That'll be the
blowout.
worst defeat Alabama's ever taken. Yeah. I was gonna say
Yeah,
that'll be like a 45 nothing rout by Georgia because Nick Saban set all of his starters back in Alabama and said, "Don't even come on this trip. We're taking only the cheerleaders and only the fourth stringers. They need all the
yeah.
experience they can get."
Taking all the cheerleaders. That's funny. And for the Alabama and LSU game, I mean, that came down to literally the final play of the game. LSU beat Bama 32-31. Um, so LSU they had the ball. They got the ball back in the fourth quarter with 21 seconds left and 2 timeouts.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there watching that game, and I'm thinking, okay, LSU, you have 2 timeouts. You got plenty of time. Just make a couple of plays down the field. All you need is a field goal. What did they do? They take
Right.
a
Yeah.
knee.
Yeah. I was in the same boat. I was like, come on, 21. I did see the very end of that game. I got to see. I was like, 21 seconds left. Come on, you got to. Nope, need it. And I'm like, why? With
Yeah,
seeing what
exactly.
they had done earlier, where the quarterback on one play ran it, I was like, why? Why don't
Yeah,
you either A, try that, or B, take a few shots down the field and then take a field goal?
yeah, exactly. I'm watching that game, and they take a knee, and I'm like, I was the same thing. And I'm like, why? You got plenty of time left, and I was literally getting
2
ticked off.
timeouts and time on the clock.
Yeah,
It wasn't even the fact that there was time on the clock. It was 2 timeouts with 21 seconds left. Why are you going to kneel it? You got 2 timeouts.
yeah. And I'm saying to myself, if they lose this game, it's Brian Kelly's fault. He made that decision, and and I
Yeah.
was saying,
Yeah.
you don't go into overtime with Bama. You just don't do
No,
that. And
you
then
don't risk it.
yeah, and Bama gets the ball first, and what do? They score a touchdown. And I'm like, well, there you go.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, and you could see Kelly. You could see Kelly on the sideline going, "What in the fuck did I just do?"
Exactly. and what does LSU do on the first play on their first play of overtime? It's a quarterback draw to the end zone, and I'm like, wow. And
Okay, yes. Thank you. Okay, I'm sorry. And that's what I saw. I saw the quarterback keep to the end zone on the first play of overtime on their possession. And I saw the kneel down and then I saw that and I went, wait a minute. You took a knee with 2 timeouts, 21 seconds on the clock, and your quarterback can do that?
yeah,
You needed one of those in 21 seconds. That's all you needed. One quarterback run for 25 yards puts them in field goal range. Game over.
yeah. Maybe call a timeout and then get a few more yards for a better field goal range. But,
Right. But still,
yeah,
like almost a 25 where they were at on the field, if I'm not mistaken, if I remember right, a 25-yard QB run would have pretty much put them right there in field goal range.
yeah.
At like the 30 or 35-yard line on the Bama side of the ball, like Bama side of the field. Like, so why did you not pull that out in regulation? Why did you wait? Why did you wait until desperation overtime to go, oh shit, I guess we need to pull this out. Let's do it.
And then they basically push their chips all in and say, all right, we're going for 2. And I'm literally on the edge of my
That was a
seat.
predetermined. Yeah, that was a
Yeah.
predetermined decision. As soon as he ran it into the end zone, there wasn't any thought about it. He told him when he went into that game, if you score a touchdown, you're staying out there and going for 2. Fuck this. We're not going to a double overtime.
Yeah.
One way or the other, we're not going to double overtime. I already screwed up and took us to 1. We're not going to 2, so we're going to go all in.
And I'm literally on the edge of my seat. I'm like, oh my gosh, they're going for 2. and And he
I thought
basically,
LSU lost it at that point.
yeah, I thought they did too. Because the smart decision
Bama's
I thought,
defense on the goal line.
yeah, the smart decision I thought at that time was to kick it and go in the next
Yeah,
overtime and
yeah,
try to stop Alabama's offense. Because
yeah, yeah.
I mean,
I was like,
LSU's
you're gonna
defense
go for
already
two, put
has,
the game on the line. Yeah, exactly. And Alabama's defense, we know how good they are on the goal line. That's the one place they can stop people. And you think they're not
yeah,
going to try with their heart and soul to stop you when you're going for two to win the game?
yeah,
LSU got lucky. I'll just say that.
yeah. Lucky playing at home. Yeah, and
Yeah,
their
that's
fans stormed the field. They didn't take down the goalposts, but they stormed the field.
yeah, they did.
Oh, they did.
Oh, they didn't tear down the goalpost, no, but they stormed the field like crazy.
Yeah, because
I'm
I
curious to
just,
see how much damage was done to their field by all the traffic on the field, like what was done at Tennessee.
yeah, but I mean, I I wasn't for sure. I probably knew they didn't think they'd take down the goalpost because I didn't see anything about it on Facebook or anything. But in that game, LSU had 367 total yards compared to Alabama's 465, and each team was averaging 6 yards of offense. And so, in a way, it
That
was a
is what
deep.
you call a football game with no defense.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was about to say. College football game with no defense. It's like Oklahoma
Yeah,
versus Texas versus Texas Tech. No
right.
defense. There's no defense whatsoever. Um, third downs, Alabama went 6 for 16. LSU 5 for 12. Alabama was 2 for 2 on fourth downs. And LSU had 66 total plays of offense. Alabama had 81. LSU had 6 punts. Bama had 4. Penalty wise, LSU had 7 for 64 yards, and Alabama 9 penalties for 92 yards. Because that's what also killed Alabama too. That that probably made Nick Saban hot because I mean Bama's committed a lot of penalties in that game. Even the Texas game, they had trouble. They had struggles with penalties. I mean, when they were playing Texas, you could see Nick Saban kind of getting all heated at his line because they got called for holding several times. But I mean, this game proves that Bama's human after all and not immortal and win every single game.
Bama slash Saban, depending on what fan you ask. I think that just proved that Nick Saban is not immortal.
Yeah. Um, obviously Nick Saban is going to be coaching at Alabama again next season, but I'm kind of curious on what he's going to say to the press after this season of how their season went. I mean, when they lost to Georgia in the national championship, Saban said we're in a rebuilding year. Now I'm curious to what he's going to say this season after 2 losses and out of the playoff race.
Well, we had a bad season. We were flacked by a lot of injuries. And yeah, it was just an all around bad year. We didn't make the national championship, so it's not what we wanted this year. So I guess we're just going to come back and try twice as hard next year.
Yeah, and this could also screw up Alabama's recruiting situation now that they have 2 losses. Because I mean, everyone that gets recruited to go play at Bama goes there to win a national championship game. Now Bama has 2 losses, and those recruits have to be thinking, "Man, I might want to reconsider because Bama has 2 losses. They're number 9 in the nation right now. Look on the outside, not looking in, and so maybe I want to go play for Georgia now.
Yeah.
Georgia
Oh,
could
yeah.
yeah.
I was going to
And
say, with them two being so close together, too, Georgia can grab a lot of recruits this year off of Alabama just by the way Alabama has not performed.
Yeah. Georgia's going to be the new Alabama, and Alabama's just
Yep.
not going to be able to compete with Georgia this season.
And then Clemson is just going to be the new Georgia. They're always going
Yeah.
to be the number 2 team that can almost get there and will win a national championship every now and then, but they'll be like number 2 or 3, 4, 5, 6 through the whole season. And then in the last 2 or 3 weeks, move into the playoffs and maybe make a national championship.
Yeah. And LSU had 22 first downs compared to Alabama's 25. So, yeah, defense was very much struggling in that game. The only interception that Bryce Young threw was in the end zone because he took a snap and he was looking to throw it to. He stepped up in the pocket, and when he threw it, he had a guy there, but it bounced off his chest and went into the LSU corner. And that was the interception in the end zone, which was obviously a touchback, but that was the only interception that Bryce Young threw, which was a potential touchdown. And if that was a touchdown, then Alabama wouldn't have to worry about overtime because
Right.
that would have not because that would have been a touchdown. Or
I mean, that was a potential that was potentially a 14-point swing because it stopped Alabama from getting 7. And then depending on what LSU did with their drive after that, they might have scored 7. So that's a 14-point swing on the scoreboard.
yeah, very much so. And the last game I want to talk about is it was going back to the OK State and Kansas game. Kansas beat OK State 37-16. They 25 first downs for Oklahoma State compared to Kansas's 23 first downs. So their defense has struggled trying to get off the field. Passing wise, the quarterback for Oklahoma State this past week was Rangel. Maybe I think I'm pronouncing that right.
I was going to say Rangel. Yeah, and he's freaking
Is he a freshman?
B. He is a B quarterback at best. If that's what OSU is looking at in the future, he better do a hell of a lot of work in the offseason because he's not very accurate. He's not very strong. He's not very smart in the pocket. Like, he has some potential, but the coaches are really going to have to work this kid over.
I can see where you're coming from.
If they expect him to be a Spencer Sanders.
Because he went 27 for 40, 304 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. So this kid has really got to work on his decision-making in the pocket.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I mean, 304 yards, most people would go, hell, that's a hell of a quarterback. But he threw 304 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. That's a good day if you don't have 3 interceptions. When you throw in 3 interceptions, it doesn't matter if you have a 1,000-yard day. If you have 3 interceptions, you did not have a good day as a quarterback.
No. And
when your top wide receiver plays for the other team, that's an issue.
Yeah. And Kansas's quarterback, he was their backup until the starter got hurt a couple weeks ago. But he went 18 for 23, 203 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no interceptions. So, he
they had a better second-string quarterback.
Yeah, they have a better second-string quarterback than Oklahoma State does. I was kind of surprised that Oklahoma State didn't play Gundy at quarterback because he went in against Kansas State.
Right. And here's I was in Phoenix. Okay. I didn't have a hotel room, didn't have anywhere. I drove to Phoenix by myself. I got there. I left here Friday morning at like 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock in the morning, something like that, 5 in the morning to get to Phoenix so that I could check in by 3 p.m. I slept in my car Friday night. I slept in my car Saturday night. And then I drove home Sunday after the races. So I camped out in the parking lot. So I didn't really get to watch a whole lot of anything. But I started looking at the stats because I was like, how the hell did Oklahoma State lose to Kansas as badly as they did? Like, if that would have, my mind went, okay, if that was Gunnar Gundy just had a really, really, really bad day. And that's not a Gunnar Gundy like day. So I went in, I started looking at stats, and I see Rangel, and I'm like, what the are we doing with our third string quarterback starting against Kansas? I mean, yes, okay, I understand the cliche. It's Kansas. We can beat them with a cheerleader off the bench. But this isn't Kansas from 5 years ago. This is Kansas that gives a damn and is there to compete. Like, I think that was just error by Mike Gundy to go, I don't want to show favoritism to my son, and I don't want it to look that way. So, for good persona, to give a good outlook, to give a good view on me as a coach and not think I'm playing favoritism, let's go ahead and start Rangel.
Well, if he doesn't want to show favoritism, then why did I'm kind of wondering now why you put Gundy into play last week against Kansas State and not Rangel.
Rangel was dealing with something on like an elbow or a wrist or something. He was dealing with a little soreness or something. So they didn't feel comfortable against a top tier Kansas State team, even giving him a chance. But I guess he out practiced. By my understanding from people I talked to, they say that Rangel actually out practiced Gundy that week. So that's why Rangel got the start. And that's who Mike Gundy is, though. He don't care who you are, if you're his son or not. If you don't practice well, you don't start.
And third downs, Oklahoma State went 5 for 11, and Kansas went 6 for 14. Fourth downs, the Cowboys were 0 for 1, and the Jayhawks were 2 for 2. Cowboys had 75 yards. 75 total plays of offense compared to Kansas's 69. 2 punts for Oklahoma State, 3 punts for Kansas. Penalty-wise, I'm kind of surprised that Kansas won this game because Kansas committed 5 penalties for 40 yards and Oklahoma State only had 1 penalty for 15 yards. So,
and see, that's the one upside for Oklahoma State in the past 3 weeks. They have been little to no penalties. They have played penalty-free football. It's the offensive mistakes that they can't get over.
Yeah. You're right, because mistake-free even if they were playing nearly mistake-free football, it wasn't enough against Kansas because, like you said, all of a sudden Kansas walks up and wants to compete, and it's not like a pushover. So I mean, it might be TCU and maybe Oklahoma State in the Big 12 championship game, which last season Baylor won the Big 12 championship because Oklahoma State couldn't get in from the half-yard line, which that was good defense in that game last season.
That was absolutely the best defense Baylor had played all season. And if Oklahoma State makes the Big 12 championship, I can guarantee you that situation doesn't happen again.
Yeah, because if you can't get in from the half-yard line, that's just kind of ridiculous. Heck, even last season, AFC Championship game, Tyreek Hill couldn't even get in from the 1-yard line before halftime against the Bengals because Patrick Mahomes threw that check down pass to him, and the Bengals held him out of the end zone. But this upcoming week for the NFL and college football will be fun to watch. I don't expect Georgia to lose anytime soon, so I think Georgia's going to be ranked number 1 for the rest of the year. So Thank you for watching this episode of Pigskin Talk. And remember, you don't just talk, you pigskin talk. Thanks for watching.
Thank you. Oh.